Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Oscar Smacketeers, and welcome to bout number 179 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me tonight is our prestigious panel of award-winning Oscar Smack voters. First, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Tom. If anyone is keeping score, that's Scorsese 0, 36 Mafia 1, Haggis.
Hey, so the other night I ran after watching Sinners. I had some crackers before bed, and they gave me the willies.
Second, writer, actor, and director Kyle, a homosexual poet, a drunken artist, a man who has a relationship with volleyball, a sexual deviant, a guy who likes to wear gladiator outfits. But enough about me. Fine.
Wow, I feel like you just hit my resume, but tonight I'll be playing the role of Duplicity, LA Downtown Industrial District, and I'd like to say hello to all of you essays and homies out there.
Third, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Ink Studios, Andrew. I've been dying to do something all day, and I think maybe we can take care of this now. Oprah, Uma, Oprah. I feel much better. Zumwalt.
So you rob trains and banks, but you can't steal this pussy for a night?
Oh my. Fourth, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Gabriel. The winners will take home an Oscar. The losers will all be presented with monogram do-it-yourself suicide kits. Rowald.
Yikes. I believe she was a sperm thief. A semen demon? Yes, they saw the power of my mind and body. They desired it.
These are true stories.
Let's go ahead and poke the monkey and find out what we're discussing tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, revolutionary rescuers and bootlegging brothers, welcome to the main event. Tonight, 2 tens tallying 29 Oscar nominations enter the arena for an Academy Award affray. Will one battle win the war? Or will sinners smoke the competition? In the first quarter, from 2025, written by Thomas Pynchon and Paul Thomas Anderson, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, starring Sean Penn, Tiana Taylor, and Leonardo DiCaprio. One battle after another. In the second corner, also from 2025, written and directed by Ryan Coogler, starring Miles Caton, Jack O'Connell, and Michael B. Jordan. Sinner!
All right, this is our first ever Oscar Smack, and we will be voting for our picks between these two nominated films. We will discuss each of their nominations in one of our 4 categories. So without further ado, let's hit our first award tonight, which is for Best Screenplay.
Well, I'd like to start off by thanking the Academy for having me on tonight. And I think I'm going to have some unpopular opinions about some of these movies. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to start out with Sinners as far as the screenwriting. And my first thought with Sinners is that it's kind of schizophrenic. It doesn't know what its identity is, at least not to start. It starts out kind of as a crime drama where these two brothers are, they're Chicago gangsters who are trying to come in and start their own juke joint in their old hometown. And then it kind of turns into a romance. And then it's in some ways it's a musical. And then all of a sudden it's a horror film with vampires. And then it's Riverdance with vampires for a minute. And then at the end, it turns into kind of Rambo versus the KKK. And so I felt in some ways that it was kind of schizophrenic. It didn't know what its identity was throughout. Now, that sounds like a criticism, and it is, maybe. It was just my thought of when I watched it. It's like, what is this movie? Is it a horror movie? Is it about vampires? What is it? Not that any movie has to have a single identity, but I just was kind of curious about it. That all being said, I thought some of the writing was very solid, really great character development, some great dialogue in there. And I really did enjoy the film, and I enjoyed the writing in it. And then I think we need to talk about One Battle After Another as well. Now, this Sinners was an original screenplay, and One Battle After Another is an adapted one based on another, source material. And I think the most convincing part of One Battle After Another to me was the parts with the secret society, where they were talking about all of these things. And I felt like, well, this is strangely topical. And in years past, I might have gone, this is really fanatical and just doesn't really make sense. But I kind of was like, oh, well, this seems like something that could really actually happen. And there's some good dialogue in it. But I felt like, I don't know, I felt like at times like we didn't really know any of these characters. There was no real main character necessarily. And again, I'm not sure that a movie needs a single main character, but that was just kind of my thought on those. So I want to try to keep it short tonight so we can get through all these rounds and talk about all these things. So those were kind of my initial thoughts on the writing of these two movies.
Yeah. So One Battle After Another is sort of a adaptation or sourced from a Thomas Pynchon book called Vineland, I believe. I don't know how closely it hews to that, but that is a book that has some absurdism in it, and it's not so literal all the time. So there are definitely some names and ideas, and like you talk about the secret cabal, like that's something it's been very topical in American politics for years and years. I mean, it goes back hundreds of years when we talk about that, but to see it so blatantly on the screen, right, is interesting. You make it feel sort of realistic the way it's portrayed. But a lot of it can come off goofy. The way the characters are named, the way they name their society, like some of the choices they make and those things. Now, those things aren't necessarily always important in a book are like germane to the main idea. But when they are so strange that they take you out of the movie and you stop and think like, well, why is something called this? Like, what is the level of realism in this? But the movie has a little bit of absurdism, and I know the source material does as well. I think I would classify One Battle as a bit schizophrenic at places too, because it goes through kind of phases in its acts where it's more action oriented, then it's more human oriented. It's a bit sexual in places. It's a bit disjointed in places. Sometimes on purpose because the characters you're following are a bit frantic or manic. I think it really hits its stride in the second act of the story, is where it's really strong. I don't know so much about the third and how it wraps up. I'm still kind of thinking about that a little bit. There are parts of it I really liked, and I think it has some good ideas, but it feels unfocused in places. Sinners, I agree, starts out going one way. I think it does a great job introducing us to the world and the things around it. It does a good job. Well, it starts with narration, so it literally starts with basically tell, don't show, which can sometimes be a knock on a movie. But then I think it pays that off with its great one shot where you see kind of what they're talking about in action. So it's sort of a setup payoff rather than just an explanation, which I like. I think it hits its stride as well near its second act. It has a lot of great, interesting setup that gets you into the characters, their differences, who they are, what the world they live in is like. And a lot of that is delivered just simply through the interactions they have with people and not so much like, this is the way it is. There is a little bit of that where they explain, Chicago's not what it seems and all these other things, but that a lot of that sounds like natural dialogue that just gives you an insight into the world. There are some supernatural elements, of course, of Sinners. How well they work, I guess your mileage may vary on that. But I think the main through line in the story, all the people involved, the conclusion of the story, it all feels logical and it fits. It shifts through a lot of tones, but I think it fits and it works for the movie. I would question the coda at the end, whether or not that's really necessary. Does it add anything to the movie? It is a kind of a bittersweet moment. But yeah, I'd be interested. I think that may be polarizing for some people. I've not always been quite sure how I feel about it, but I'm going to pass it off to someone else.
I mean, Sinners, it does kind of follow the typical horror movie, establishing the norm and then introducing the supernatural or the murderer later on. It does it at a little bit slower pace, and what I really like that about it, because it really kind of lets you settle into these characters and appreciate them more and their relationships, which all come into play when the vampire stuff starts happening. And I think that we'll talk about music, I guess, later, but I think that the way that it builds, I really like it. I mean, my wife didn't want to watch it because she's like, I don't watch horror movies. And I'm like, I think you're hard pressed to say that it's a horror movie. I mean, you get 45 minutes in before the horror stuff really starts happening. It might even be longer than that. It might even be also an hour. And I think I don't know. I just like that it just kind of lets the story breathe. I don't think it feels dragged out, and I don't think it feels rushed. Both of these movies do a really great job of handling the time they're given. One battle after another. Man, I don't think I've ever. Maybe Titanic might be an example, but I don't know a lot of 245 movies that don't feel like 245. And it's interesting because one battle after another doesn't. The whole movie is not going at this kind of frantic pace the whole time, but I've seen it a couple times and it never feels like I sat there for 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's such a compelling story, and it almost seems like it almost wouldn't work on paper, but when you get this director and these actors and this dialogue, it just works really, really well. And I think that I do think the strength in One Battle After Another lies in other areas from the script, because I think as it is written, like I said, it doesn't seem like it would work. So that's why I kind of be leaning the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to rehash, but I would definitely say one of the strengths I felt of Sinners was definitely the slow pace that you were saying at the beginning and how it really eases you in, and you are discovering this amazing world that the Smokestack brothers live in and have evolved, and you're getting snippets of why people find them to be amazing, and what they're up to, and what do they stand for, and what are they bringing to the story. And it's a nice transition from that, instead of just being like, well, we're a crazy horror movie. And then it slowly divulges into that horror aspect where you're right. Can you say it's horror, or is it a story with some gore? I don't know. I guess you could be horror, whatever you want to call that genre. And I feel like there's an A to B to C with it. I would agree with Kyle. Is the coda necessary? I mean, it doesn't add anything to the story. Maybe they had a deal with the blues player and they just wanted to get him in for a scene. But I mean, it was neat. It was cool to see, but it didn't really be like, oh, that's why, it didn't actually change any part of the story. So maybe it was just fun. One battle after another. There are parts that I enjoyed of one battle after another. I've watched it twice now. It is. I feel dirty watching it. The story is interesting. Like I said, there are parts of it that are spot on, and then there are other parts that I'm just like, it's not that I'm not pulled into the suspension of disbelief. I think it's more of I feel like maybe I'm watching something too close to home, and it feels weird and awkward. And I've known people that have that kind of conspiracy monarchy to themselves, and everything is a little above and beyond. And I don't think that's the main thread. The main thread is the father and daughter, and I think that is the most important part of it. I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about this. Like, there are pockets of goodness, and then the rest of it is just kind of like, to me. And I know that's probably not a shared opinion with the panel, but in my viewing, it's like, I don't know.
In terms of your too close to home comment, one of the things that I cannot kind of get my mind, that I can't square, maybe you guys can help here, is that this went into production in July 2024. And it seemed like at the moment we were heading towards Kamala Harris as president. But this movie, I feel, benefits from Trump being in the White House. It hits a lot closer to home. The stuff that happens is it feels a lot more visceral because of who the president is. And I keep asking myself, would we be talking about this movie, or would it have gotten as much play had the election gone a different way in November?
Well, I think that's to Gabe's comment, right?
Yeah.
That if he would have watched, if things would be different, or watched it 5 years ago, would we have the same aspects? Would we have the same perception of, this is a little this is a little of a stretch, there's no way. And now it seems like, well, maybe. I mean, the first 30 minutes of the movie are like, I mean, that's
you're watching the news.
I'm watching the news.
Trying to remember too, though, during the first Trump presidency, there was still a lot of immigration stuff going on. There was still a lot of that present in the world. And I think that the movie still would have struck home with a lot of the things that were happening, like the riots in Minneapolis, in Ferguson, and those other things that have happened in our recent time. I think it's still a timely movie, right? Even if history takes a different path. But yes, it's almost an unhappy, unlucky accident for the film that we live in the world we live in, because now it feels almost like it was ripped out of the headlines as opposed to being a work of fiction. Yeah, it is. That is interesting. exploring movies as a reflection of a time they release in that happens to coincide with what's going on. I would say that Idiocracy is one of those movies we look back on now and we thought this was a parody, but some people have used it as a blueprint. And we're like, that's crazy. You never would have thought that. But if that movie came out in the 70s, we would have laughed at it. Of course, it wouldn't have been done by Mike Judge and, as ubiquitous, but you wouldn't look back at it and go like, it just wouldn't have the same themes in it.
Does that?
Yeah,
I know we kind of flipped on that as well with like when Civil War came out with Kirsten Dunst. And is it a same?
Jamie Lee out here with a crook, and she's.
Is it a similar ability? Is it similar?
That doesn't mean keep going.
Just keep playing the music, Mike. Just keep playing the music. Don't stop.
And I just want to let you know that this means something to me, and I worked really hard. I love you, Nana. And
go vegan.
All right, let's put it to a vote. Gabe.
I'm going to go with Sinners.
All right. Andrew.
I'm also going to go with Sinners.
Tom.
Sinners.
And Kyle.
Make it a clean sweep. Sinners.
All right. That was easy. Let's move on to our second award tonight, which is Best Actor, Actress, Supporting Actor, Actress, and Casting.
Okay, that was funny. Okay, so I get to talk about acting. So there are some really interesting performances in one battle after another. We're Tiana Taylor, very strong, rugged. She has these character moments of just being this hard ass that just doesn't care. And in the same moment can flip around and have this almost sensual and normalcy to herself and vulnerability, all in just a beat behind itself, and then flip immediately back to being a hard ass. And it is such a pivot, and it doesn't feel awkward for her. She does a good job of actually filling that void to make you feel of all this that's going in her head all at the same time and mixing all at once. And I truly loved watching her performance and the way her character moved throughout this story. Their daughter, I'm sorry, she was fantastic. Elena Haim, I believe is how you say it. Absolutely fantastic. Loved her. She was a good character. I think she has, a lot of chops to show off, and she's young and, good for her. Hope to see her in more stuff, see what she can do. Sean Penn, I mean, weird old military guy. What more could suit him better? He is such a character actor, and boy, did he fit into this role like a glove and just be creepy and weird. And even when he was in those moments where he's like, I actually think I might love this woman, he was creepy and weird but he plays it so well. And then Leonardo DiCaprio, we'll touch on him. He plays the guy that hasn't showered in 6 weeks. Jace Infinity played Willa. Oh, did I say the wrong name? I did. I'm so sorry. I apologize. You are correct. Yeah. Sorry about that. So I was inferring on Chase Infinity for Willa, and I did say the wrong name, so my notes were incorrect. I apologize. um, so Leonardo DiCaprio, he just has this dirty, greasy, homeless man kind of feel to him, who is paranoid, conspiracy, and yet can be a part of something. It feels like that traditional like 70s protesting hippie parent that then in the 90s is like, well, shit, I guess I have to pay bills now, but I don't want to. So I don't know, take that as you will. I definitely would give Chase Infinity a supporting actress for her role with Willa, because it was beautiful. Sinners, so many good people. Wow. Omar Miller. I mean, we can talk about Michael B. Jordan and the fact that he doesn't have a twin. And we'll talk a little bit about that later in one of the other categories, but holy crap. And then you get into Miles Canton. Holy freaking buckets. Another diamond in the rough. I want to see more of him. I want to hear more of him. Saul Williams. Who else did I have? Helena Hu, Yao. These guys are, I mean, just all of them put together. Absolutely phenomenal group. Made a great story come alive. Oh yeah, I have Andrina Ward Hammond. Andrina Ward Hammond. I should probably have wrote her whole name down. And then I will mention her because she's in the movie. I'm not, I guess, a huge fan, but Haley Steinfeld's in it. She just seems out of place. I don't really know why she's in it. It could be anybody. It should have been somebody else. She was a fine. She's nothing to check out. It really felt like she was in it so she could have a new single, I guess. I don't know. But nothing special about, yeah, she produced one of the songs on the album. Nothing, exciting about her, but
so anyone could have played Haley. So Kathy Bates in that role.
I mean, it wouldn't have been as sexy, but sure.
Were you stuck your tongue in my coos, I believe? Kathy Bates saying that.
Holy crap.
It's like to give Sinners the record for the most uses of the word coos in a movie I've ever heard.
And pussy.
It's a great word. Yeah, there's a lot of movies that says you say pussy, but coos is a real out there. It's like,
yeah, true.
George Carlin calling it a snapper. It's like, it's novel.
Yep.
All right. Let me get my thoughts out here quick. So, yeah, talking about the cast, Sinners has an incredible ensemble. Looking at the awards that these movies have been nominated for, I would say in the Best Supporting Actress category, they got the wrong actress from One Battle After Another. I think Chase Infinity deserved it well ahead of the other actress who was nominated, Tiana Taylor. I did not particularly care for her. I didn't like her character very much. I didn't think her acting was anything special. Mostly just brooding looks and then disappearing from the movie. Now, perhaps I'm having a visceral reaction because she was also a shitty person in the movie, but Chase Infinity was much better. Delroy Lindo, an actor I love and have loved in a lot of things, absolutely does not deserve a nomination over Miles Catone or Jack O'Connell, who were in Sinners and I think were better. And Michael B. Jordan, more like Michael B. acting, he is in this movie. Having to play two roles and some of the editing tricks, you watch some of the behind the scenes stuff, the way they did that was incredible. I did catch it this time watching when they're passing the cigarette. That was one of the most impressive scenes I saw it the first time. If you watch it again,
I thought so too.
There's a very long pause in the middle where their fingers touch, where you can tell they're like, okay, freeze this. Now shift them from the hands and then move on. It's like they gave themselves some time there to play. So I thought that was creative. But yeah, that's done really well. The twins, they have different personalities. They feel like different people. We talked earlier about, the movies being a little bit whimsical in places. I think all the names and the crazy ideas and One Battle After Another kind of fit the more fantastical source material, but they still are jarring. In the time, it takes you out of the movie being like, why is this City of Beverly Hills? That doesn't make any sense. It's not a name anyone has. If you want to call yourself Jungle Pussy, that's fine. But also, that's usually, in general, not a name people have. And then I know they all have code names and stuff like that, and I get that. But the Smokestack Twins, you don't name twins after their two nicknames. That's just not. You remember early 90s wrestling, there was a tag team of jobbers called the Beverly Brothers, but you wouldn't call them the Bo Blake Brothers because that was their first names. You'd call them the Beverly Brothers. So the Smokestack Twins is goofy and awkward and sounds awkward every time they say it. Just because they call themselves Smoke and Stack, you don't combine the two and then call yourself twins. That's weird. If their last names were Smokestack, I would be like, wow, that's interesting because you're usually named after what your parents did. Your parents were smokestacks. That's strange. But yeah, other than that, I have no notes on the acting in Sinners. I thought it was pretty damn great. I can't really name anyone who was bad. I even thought Haley Steinfeld was pretty good. The two actors who also play in the little band with Jack O'Connell, they are actually musicians, not actors. They have a band together. And then in One Battle After Another, one of the sisters from Haim is Mae West. So they like casting musicians as actors in these movies. But yeah, Sinners for me, much stronger. And I think the wrong people got nominated for both films.
I think, I'm going to jump actually to casting. So we have this new Oscar that they're giving out this year for casting. And both of these movies did a really superb job putting people in their particular roles. That said, I think One Battle After Another is probably, so when you think of casting, you really kind of have two roles. What big actor can we sign and make an executive producer, and then, filling in the other roles. And somebody found Chase Affinity. That alone is enough for One Battle After Another to win a casting award, because she is excellent. Sean Penn, like as everybody said, is fantastic. Benicio del Toro is really good. I feel like it's kind of a small role for him to get nominated for. In my opinion, I think his work in Phoenician Scheme earlier this last year, I was hoping he'd get some recognition for it, because as far as acting skill, I feel like it's a much heavier load, and he carries that movie. So, but yeah, I think between all these movies, I think Michael B. Jordan is the best acting done throughout either of these movies. And I really would like to see him win. I don't know if he's going to. It seems that Chalamet and Leonardo are fighting over it right now. So, but yeah, I think the acting in both of these movies, these are difficult movies and difficult characters to play. And I don't know, it's a real treat to see them, especially when, we have people that complain like, oh, there's no good original movies this year. And like, you're not fucking getting out there then, because this 2025 was an exceptional year for original movies. And I just got to make a little bit of effort and get out there and go see it. So
I think you really can't go wrong with Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn. You really can't go wrong there. Although I do have to say, I feel like Leo playing a, paranoid kind of almost crazy person. I felt like he was better in The Departed in that role. And I found Sean Penn's performance disquieting and uncomfortable. But that being said, I don't think I've ever felt any more uncomfortable watching a character on screen than Ben Kingsley in Sexy Beast. He just had this, he was like a coiled snake the whole time, and you just were waiting for him to explode. But I thought Sean Penn did a really great job, and I feel like we saw how he was conflicted in some ways. He wanted to be part of this secret society, but he also had feelings that didn't necessarily align with theirs. And so I thought he did a great job. Yeah, you cannot go wrong with Michael B. Jordan. I mean, playing two characters, dealing with dealing with that, giving each of them their own personalities, but also dealing with the technical aspects of that, what that takes to play those two characters and pull it off so seamlessly. He was great. I think I'm with Kyle. I didn't hate Haley Steinfeld's performance in it. I thought she was okay. And Miles Catton, how do you say his last name? Miles Catton. He was great, but I wondered if he really sang. Did he really sing any of that stuff? Did he play any of that stuff? Does anybody know? Are we not doing
Yeah,
trivia?
I believe
Go
so.
ahead.
I believe he's a musician first before he
Yeah.
acted.
Yeah,
That's actually his voice. That's actually him singing.
Yeah, he's a
freaking
fantastic singer.
fantastic. He was
He played-
fantastic.
He played everything. He played and everything. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then he acted well at the same time. You could expect, I think you guys talked about, the end of Sinners, and I was really overjoyed to see Buddy Guy. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But I felt like Buddy Guy was maybe not really a great actor. He
That's why he was in Dakota, and that's it.
he just had a small part, but I was so overjoyed to see Buddy Guy in a movie about the blues and that kind of thing. So I think maybe we give some credit for cameos as well. I don't know. It's not one of the official categories, but I think I'm gonna give a little credit for the cameo. And both of these movies are well cast. Again, like I said, you can't go wrong with Leonardo DiCaprio, Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn. I mean, how can you go wrong? And then you have all these great new young actors. They're fantastic.
Here comes the Sandman from the Apollo to sweep Gabe off.
I'd like to thank the Academy.
All right. Let's put it to a vote.
Boo.
Gabe.
I get to vote first.
Yes.
I think I'm going to go. I'm going to get to go with Sinners.
All right. Andrew.
Sinners.
Tom.
I got to go with One Battle After Another.
And Kyle.
Yeah, the ensemble in Sinners is great, but there are some incredibly strong performances in One Battle After the Other, so I'm going to go with that.
All right. Our presenter for the third award tonight for Best Directing, Cinematography, and Editing needs no introduction.
Literally.
All right. So if you listen to the podcast, you know that I'm a Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I'm
What?
serious. I have a daughter named Magnolia. I have a son named Anderson Thomas. Like, that's about as big as I can make it. And like PTA, I've been wondering what's it going to take for him to get the recognition. And it seems like we are at the threshold of him finally getting recognition he deserves for his truly. I mean, he makes really great movies, and I mean, I know that there's some people that like Phantom Thread isn't as good as some of his other ones, and Inherent Vices can be a mess depending on how you look at it. But it really can't take away, Boogie Nights and Magnolia, and There Will Be Blood, which is probably one of the best movies of the century so far. And his work in One Battle After Another, it's really kind of amazing because the story is, it's chaos, and he really doesn't. He does a really great job of kind of like delivering that chaos to us, but it's chaos happening in kind of some very mundane settings. I mean, it's a small cabin in the woods. It's it's this car chase that I I think they will be teaching this car chase in film classes for years to come. I think because it's, I mean, it's like it begs to be studied and taken apart and shot by shot and beat by beat, and it's so well done. And I'm so happy that I kind of like cut time out of my day and like I got to go see this at the movie theater, and it just sitting there in the theater with those rolling hills and the tension building. It was, I mean, it's one of those movie experiences that just kind of sticks with you. That being said, so I think in this category, I feel like directing and editing belongs well to One Battle After Another. But because Paul Thomas Anderson takes this very a kind of pedestrian view of this very chaotic and insane situation that's kind of happening, his cinematography doesn't come off as dazzling as it does in Sinners. That just is full of so many beautiful, gorgeous shots, and the composition, and there's shots in Sinners that just look like paintings. And Ryan Coogler is not afraid to hold back on the lights and let the darkness and the negative space just start to overwhelm his characters. And it's scary and it's exhilarating and it's so much fun. And I think yeah, if it was just cinematography, I'd have to give it to Sinners. But I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson's directing in One Battle After, like I said before, it does not feel like 2 hours and 45 minutes because it just moves like gangbusters. And the last thing I'll say is, if you go back and look, the best movies, like the really great movies that we love and stand the test of time, are those ones that they're not just comedy and they're not just drama, but like the really great movies are the ones that people argue about. Like, is it really a drama? Is it really a comedy? Is it really a horror movie? And those movies stick with us because they do many things well. And like Truman Show, is that a comedy or is it a drama? It's Eternal Sunshine, Spotless Mind. I can think of other ones that don't have Jim Carrey, but I think Sinners and One Battle After Another are also in that genre bending gray area. And I think that's one reason why we're talking about them, and we'll be talking about them again on Oscar night.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because I think film has a language, and we've talked about that a bit. Some of that has to do with tone, some of that has to do with genre. And we're seeing now, and it's always been a thing, but we're seeing now a lot of people are playing with those lines and weaving them in and out. Like we talk about, is Sinners a horror movie? Well, technically, yes, in some aspects, but that horror serves a purpose outside of just blood and guts. What's funny is when I watched Sinners, the movie it reminded me of, which I did not expect, was oh damn it! Now I'm not going to remember the name of it. It's the George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino
From Dusk Till Dawn.
movie.
I had the same thought. The same thought.
Because you don't have any inkling for almost the entire movie that something supernatural or weird is going to happen, and then it kind of turns on a dime. It's not as abrupt in this movie because you get a little bit of a teaser with Comanche hunters and this guy burning up, and you see what happens before, but it turns on that, and then you're like, oh, this is a different movie now, but it still maintains all of the momentum and integrity that it had. It's just different now. So different colors to tell the story, and I think that is amazing when it works well. If you do it badly, you create a lot of tonal whiplash. It really takes you out of watching a movie. I will say, I think One Battle After Another has some incredible shots. I want to highlight what you were talking about, Tom, with the car chase. I didn't think you could do a long distance, slow at times car chase and make it exciting. And they proved me wrong, because the distance they show the cars away adds an urgency to catch up rather than always being on each other's tail. There are some really interesting sort of action shots that come along, and some climax parts of that. There's the turning and feeling lost in the desert. That's, you are right. I think that will be taught as a new way to do that sort of shot, because I have never seen anything like it. And I imagine in the theater on a big screen, rolling up and down those hills would have been an incredible experience. The movie's also very stylized at times in one battle for another. When they're up on, I'm thinking about when they're up on the roofs with the skateboarding guys, the Latino Heat, which is Eddie Guerrero's nickname. Benicio del Toro calls him that, so wrestling callback. When they are jumping around and parkouring, and you're watching what now, 45, 50-year-old Leonardo DiCaprio, I don't know how old he is, I guess, trying to catch up with them. It's almost like a visual representation of how out of step he is with like the youth and the culture and what's going on. You see that too when he acts like he's trying to be polite to friends, but is also threatening them like an old man would. You know, there's a lot of great set pieces up for that to show the way his character is. These movies are real contrasts in lighting. One battle after another has a real mix of nighttime shots, indoor shots, outdoor shots, daytime shots, a lot of like really bright desert shots. And then Sinners is a much darker movie. It's much more brooding. It's much more interior. And I think the way it's lit is just gorgeous. It looks beautiful. And it's so hard to do that in that kind of lighting. It takes a real mastery of the space and how things are going to show up on film. One thing I did want to mention, you said that one battle after another didn't feel like 2 hours and 41 minutes. I thought it felt long. I thought it felt longer than 2 hours and 40 minutes. Really? Yeah. I was trying to come to grips with the movie because I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it at the end. It was one of those movies I had to sleep on. I did watch a little internet commentary, which I don't do very often, but I want to see like, what are other people getting out of this film? And people said this movie feels 4 hours long, you know, and I was kind of like, I kind of agree with that. It feels long and slow. That doesn't mean it's bad, but its pacing is not, I'm not saying it's awful. It's just, it doesn't feel snappy in that way. There are long moments where you feel like it's very frantic, but like not much is being progressing. And then there are other moments where it just moves at like a breakneck speed. Feels kind of uneven. I think the first act feels a little slow. But, you know, from the way it's shot, edited, directed, I don't know that you could find a ton of fault with either of these movies. You'd be real nitpicky, I think, to really have big arguments or negatives about how these films are handled in that way.
You think that people feel that way about our podcast? Like,
our podcast takes 4 hours, but it feels like 8.
Right. Right. I feel like we couldn't make that argument against ourselves.
I'm not sure anybody's actually finished one of our podcasts yet. They're like, nah, we gotta turn this shit off. We should put some sort of like, yeah, we should put some sort of like, you know, like, I don't know how to put it, like a cookie at the end where people
there's a code word at the end. Put it in the comments so you stay till the end. Yeah.
Yeah, or a warning at the beginning: don't listen to while you're driving.
At night, you know. Yeah. I think both of these movies are very competently directed, obviously. And I'm with Tom. The cinematography, I think one of the things that really stood out in Sinners to me is the cinematography. Oh my God, from shot one, it was just beautiful. And, you know, I always wonder how much of it, you know, did they actually capture this? How much of it did they do in post? You know, I think of some other movies that I really enjoyed the cinematography in, and I find out they kind of manipulated things, which is to be expected. I mean, they're gonna tweak it, they're gonna make it look better. I really love the cinematography in Mad Max Fury Road. I think it's a beautifully shot movie. It's a stark but yet beautiful movie. But then I found out they basically replaced all of the skies in it, and of course they did a whole bunch of color grading and all that kind of thing. So, you know, I always wonder, like, I love the cinematography, how much of this is fooling me, you know? But it was just beautiful in Sinners. And I that car chase. One of my friends sent me a thing. He said, I watched this and I got kind of like motion sickness from watching this car chase in one battle after another. And he sent a video on how they did it. And it's really interesting how they used long lenses to do this, which they wouldn't normally do. And it really did create this kind of disorienting effect. So there's some really great directing, really great cinematography in both of these movies. So I'll leave Andrew a little time.
I was just going, I'm just going to touch on a couple of things. Cinematography is the first one. So thank you for that lead in. I want to call out Autumn Durald Arkampal, which is the woman who did Sinners. And she actually was the first woman to ever shoot on IMAX and 65 millimeter film during Sinners. So she did something pretty amazing with shooting an IMAX and 65 millimeter at the same time. And what I thought was interesting was there's a couple of scenes where if you watch it at home or later, or even in the theater, you'll notice that the actual change of perspective happens during the movie. So when
Yeah, you mean like the aspect ratio kind of changes?
the aspect ratio all changes because when she yells and says, "You fuckers can come in," and they open the door, it goes from complete IMAX widescreen down to a 65 millimeter frame.
Interesting. Yeah, I think maybe subconsciously I noticed that, but yeah.
Yeah. When I'm watching it at home, it always takes me out. Like in the movie theater, it's it's engrossing and you don't notice it as much because your eyes aren't really catching the edge. But and I have like a 65-inch TV. It's not small, and it just I'm not a fan of switching back and forth. If Chris Nolan's listening,
okay.
Christopher Nolan, is that what you said?
I'll just point out that the IMAX format, being able to shoot on that is partially, some of the reason they can get some of the shots that they do. And I'm not saying none of it is cleaned up or color corrected, but that does tremendously help with some of that stuff because it's a very amazing format. Also, we were talking a little bit about, we always talk a little bit about visual effects with the editing. So first of all, the one that made me laugh the most on One Battle After Another is when he falls with the skateboarding guys out on the roof, and he falls in between and lands down on each one of the branches, hits the ground. And this is all a oneer, by the way, gets up, runs over and and somebody shoots a taser at him, and he immediately just he falls like a tree. That beautifully done, hilarious. Didn't see any seams or anything, and they did a great job with it. And that was awesome. I laughed really hard, and I thought that was fantastically done. So just wanted to call that scene out. And then the Michael B. Jordan duplication. So Kyle, you had mentioned that you could see where they passed the cigarette and said, "Everybody freeze." That was actually two different people. They shot that in one take. Well, not one take, but one shot. So that is actually them two standing next to each other with a sense of body.
okay, this is getting annoying.
Digital, and then there was some digital replacement of faces and things like that. And
Gabe,
anyways,
vote.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. If we do this next year, we got to make some changes. That's all I'm saying.
Shut up, you.
Made enough changes.
Isn't that always how the Oscars are? We always have to change it every year.
We fear change.
Yeah.
Gabe.
Mike, you're out. Conan, you're in.
Sinners.
All right. Andrew.
Sinners.
Tom.
My boy, PTA.
Kyle.
Sin to win.
Boy.
Jesus
Someone's
Christ,
going to have to put Danny Boyle on a suicide watch after he listens to Ron talking about Paul Thomas Anderson in the last round. The fourth award tonight is for Best Sound Score, Production, Design, and all of your thoughts on which one of these should win Best Picture.
Thank you. Thank you. Everybody sit down. I'm not sure there's much else that can be said about these movies, but I, Don DeLuise, will try my best. I want to thank the guy from Center Square who wore the funny shirts, Bruce Valanche, for giving away the last award. He was great. And anyways, I'll get right into it. Overall, all right, production design. Sinners has great production design. Costumes, the period pieces, the way the city looks, the colors, amazing, just great. Sound and score, a lot of it, some of it diegetic, some of it being played over the top. I loved it. I am not a jazz guy. That is not my scene, but it has an energy, or a blues guy for that matter either, but it has an energy and a feel in this movie that is great. I think it fits it perfectly. Some parts I didn't care as much for, just couldn't get as much into, but anytime Miles Catton is playing and Delroy Lindo, I don't know if he can actually play the harmonica, but he does a great impression of a guy playing a harmonica, and he really got me into it. I liked it a lot. So let's talk about One Battle After Another. I know it is nominated for Best Score. I thought the score in this movie was highly distracting. I did not think it fit. I thought it took away from the movie. I think it's a net negative on the film. It took me out of scenes. I noticed it way too much. And rather than giving me some emotional resonance in the scene, it just generally made me feel annoyed. It's like when you go to a sporting event and they play music while people are playing sports. I'm like, don't do that. I'm paying attention to something else. And some of this was very self-indulgent, just putting ditties and strings of notes and things across scenes. I did not enjoy that. Production design, I liked it. It looked great. It looked grimy, dirty in places, looks very crowded, but you never get lost, which is a tribute to the cinematography, the way things are blocked. You're in these sometimes very crowded, claustrophobic spaces, or very big, wide open spaces where a lot of things are happening, but I never felt lost or that anything was muddy or unclear. I could follow what was going on. The things they did do that were, there's not much to talk about, like set design and stuff when you're in the desert, but the things they choose to populate it with, the way they make the neighborhoods look, the outfits they give Sean Penn's character, the outfits they give the members of the Christmas Adventurers Club, the choices they make for these characters are great and fitting. And I saw somebody dressed up as Halloween as Bob Ferguson with the giant blue blocker sunglasses and the plaid bathrobe. I thought that was kind of cool. So, I mean, my biggest gripe for One Battle After Another is going to be the score. Otherwise, I don't think the sound is necessarily bad. The score is very annoying in my opinion.
I mean, I agree with you. I think the score in Sinners, and I mean, the Sinners is, it's a movie about music. So almost a given that the score is going to be better. Ludwig Göransson, who got his start doing music for TV shows like Community and Happy Endings, and I think he did Arrested Development. It's so weird to me to see his name at the end of TV shows, these classic TV shows that I love, and knowing that he is now executive producing with Ryan Coogler and I think it's Chris Nolan movies too. So I mean, it's just incredible. And I agree. I think I know that the production design people worked really, really hard on One Battle After Another, and it's just one of those movies where their work really is going to go unnoticed. I mean, with the exception of the Sisters of the Beaver Convent, which is obviously, it's more of a unique setting, and so more work done there. But like the One Battle After Another production time is just, just kind of fades into the movie, and that's what their job is. Whereas Sinners is they're making this very, this juke joint, and there's, a lot of opportunity for, creativity that helps bring the scene alive and pops at your face. So I think what else is there? That's about it. Yeah, score and sound, but production design. So, but I think overall, they're both really great movies. But I don't know. I think Sinners will be the one that I go back to the most often, probably. Yeah.
You really can't go wrong with the music in Sinners. The music in
Really
Sinners is just fantastic. It's fantastic. My only complaint there, though, is that I wish they make such a big deal about the music and how that the music itself, the musician, kind of draws people from other generations and draws from the past, and the music itself attracts the vampires to them. And I wish that the music itself had had a little bit bigger role in vanquishing the vampires at the end, instead of just simply using the resonator and smashing the vampire in the face with it. I wish that somehow his music would have helped vanquish the vampires in some way, maybe hypnotize them in a way so that they stayed there until the sun rose, or whatever it might have been, because the music was instrumental in drawing them there. But then they kind of dropped that whole idea that this musician has this otherworldly power, and so I was a little disappointed with that. But man, the music was fantastic. Like I said, seeing Buddy Guy at the end just made me happy. Now, I'm not sure I was a fan of the score in One Battle After Another, but I thought it fit very well, because at times I'm like, oh my God, this music is making me nervous. It's making me feel frantic. It's making me feel like these characters are feeling. And when they're running around trying to get away from, the soldiers and that kind of thing, it's like, this is making me nervous. And I think that was exactly what it was designed to do. So I don't know. Yeah, there's some really well done stuff in both of these movies.
Yeah, I guess from the way they explained the music aspect of Sinners, I guess I interpreted it different. It wasn't that it was attracting the music wasn't attracting the vampires. It was the power of the music from that musician, and they wanted his power to be able to do stuff with. And it called to them because of the power that it was. Because he says not all musicians can be as great as you. And so I just interpreted it differently, that he wanted the power of that musician.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe that's a distinction without a difference, really. It's the same idea that he drew them in.
Yep.
Somehow they were attracted to the music, whether it was for his personal, ability or not. But I also felt like, there's that whole sequence where he's playing that song, and we see multiple generations of musicians in various styles, and it feels like he's calling up these spirits, and I felt like, well, this is how he's going to help get rid of the vampires too. He's going to use this power to get rid of them, and it doesn't really end up happening that way. And so that was just a minor disappointment with me. They
sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a bit to clarify there, because I just watched Sinners today. I think his name's Remick. I can't remember, but the vampire says that he wants his power because he has not seen his people in so long, and the musician has the power to allow them to see each other again. Because when he plays, he brings spirits or people back from the past. So with access to his musical ability to connect with spirits from the past, he can revisit his long deceased people that were colonized by the English and who've all now died. He wants to be able to reconnect with them.
Mm-hmm. And I will point out that scene where they go in between the different music genres and the different types of cultures and everything. And that whole moment is absolutely gorgeous. It is filmmaking at its finest. I love that scene. It's beautiful. It's just, I really love that scene. It is super incredible. What a cool concept. What an interesting way to do blues in all different styles and still
Yeah.
have the same theme in the music, but yet it's being played on a turntable or being played by Africanas or whatever the case may be. That was
Yeah, and they
incredible.
circle around to the characters of Asian descent too and show some of their ancestry. The only thing is, there's like one white lady in the room. Can we get a Barbara Streisand or a Limp Bizkit to show up in there? How about Wham? How about the non George Michael guy from Wham?
Haley Steinfeld got her single. She got her single.
Yeah.
It's on the album, so it's fine.
One of the things Sinister I thought does really well too is that addressing this idea of cultural appropriation about like this is their music. You can listen to it and enjoy it, and it's for everyone. But when you start taking ownership of the music that and kind of call it your own without crediting where it came from is really an insult. Yep. And I thought when Remick was saying, he's like, I want your music. I want to own your music. And that's why I want you. I thought that was really, it was a very thin, applying that theme to the movie. Yep. And I also like the idea of using Irish music as kind of the counterweight to their music, seeing how the Irish have dealt with, oppression and the resilience and that storytelling culture. And they come from similar backgrounds, and it doesn't, you can be oppressed and you don't have to come out evil on the other side of it.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say one of the greatest lessons I brought home from Ireland when I took a vacation there was I had known from some history in America that the Irish were not always viewed favorably in this country, but I had no idea how long they spent under oppression by other foreign powers. I knew very little of the troubles between Ireland and Northern Ireland, but the conflicts they've had with other European powers, namely England, have left a real lasting, long impression on that country and have existed for, hundreds, if not thousands of years. So that was something I brought home that I was not quite aware of. And then seeing places like Belfast where things are still segregated, not to a degree like an apartheid or like an American South, but things like the Peace Gates and the Peace Wall and things like that inside the city, and the Catholic and Protestant neighborhoods basically like separate but equal. That stuff was very jarring to me. I didn't know that still existed in like a modern European setting. So that's a bit of a diatribe, but yeah, the Irish are very much an oppressed people as well. So there's an interesting interplay between them and the people in the American South. And it is strange to have that moment where he wants to take something from them when you feel they have way more in common than they do, in opposition.
Have you not seen Gangs of New York? They show all the oppression there.
I have, but I was so distracted by Daniel Day-Lewis's mustache that I missed most of the context. And Cameron Diaz's awful acting.
I believe
those are the two things.
And her accent, you mean? I was just all I was going to say was I have the album for Sinners and have played it on multiple rotations just because there are some songs I skip, but it is truly a really great, uplifting. It's powerful. It's just got some really great bangers. It's not, you're not listening Friday night at a club, but it's good stuff. So
Have it
that
on
was-
vinyl.
I do not have it on vinyl. I'm sorry.
I do.
I'm pathetic. So
I have the 2 LP one. One's blue and one's red. The smoking stack.
nice.
It's nice. It's really nice. I love it.
Yeah,
Nice. Cool.
Good music.
it is. It's so good. I love the soundtrack. Oh,
We're just waiting for the stupid music to start.
yeah, I
Go ahead,
know. Yeah, no, he didn't do
Up
it.
for my final. Oh man!
Shut up!
Please
bet
come
you
see me in Silence of the Hams 2 when it comes out on DVD.
You're so proud of yourself when you found that music clip.
Oh, I love it. Gabe, who are you voting for?
Me again?
Yep.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You have to do this every round, Gabe.
Yeah.
I have to be
Welcome to the
first
show,
every
Gabe.
round. Okay. Oh no, I thought we always did it like the first person. The person
does
who
round
started the
robin.
round.
Yep.
Yeah, he stopped doing
Anyway.
that this year.
I think Gabe
Okay,
lost his
fine.
vote.
That's fine. Okay, fine. But I think you know what it's going to be.
Sinners.
I'm going to go with Buddy Guy and Sinners. Yeah.
All right. Andrew.
Sinners.
Tom.
Sinners. Gabe, you like Buddy Guy? Do you listen to Robert Randolph?
I'm not familiar with Robert
Oh,
Randall.
check out Robert Randolph.
Sure.
He's great. He's fantastic.
All right, we'll do. Thanks.
Kyle.
I'm not a Buddy Guy fan, but I do like Manfrendo. It's two other things for
Seriously?
Sinners. Yeah, he's an Italian, Manfrendo. You don't know?
No, I wasn't asking you to expand on the joke. I was questioning bringing it up in the first place,
Oh, Manfrendo. He plays the blues.
and you just keep going.
All right.
There's no hole I can't dig deeper. Johnson's augers.
Oh my god!
All right. Let's move on to the recommendations for this month. And guess what? Gabe starts us off.
Oh my God. Jeez. It's a lot of pressure. Had I known, I would have picked a later category. I'm going to recommend an older movie that's similar in some ways to Sinners, maybe not quite as good, but it's called Crossroads, and it has Ralph Macchio in it, and he plays a guitarist who takes an old blues player to the crossroads where that blues player made a deal with the devil in the past, and is basically trying to free him from this deal, and it's very interesting. It's got some really great music from a guitarist named Ry Cooder. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he has done some really great music, and there's just really great blues playing in this. And Ralph Macchio has to basically have a guitar battle against Steve Vai in this movie. So it's from, I don't have it up, but I think it's from 1986. But I think you would enjoy the music. It's a good movie. It's a good story. I don't know that it competes with Sinners at all, but I think you would enjoy it. So check out Crossroads.
Holy crap.
just
I
describe
totally
Devil Went Down
forgot
to
about
Georgia?
that.
What's that? What'd you say, Tom?
Oh, that
I
was
said
Andrew.
nothing.
I just said
Oh.
it sounded like you described The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Essentially.
It basically is.
Yeah.
That's basically
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Man.
basically what it is.
Holy
Yeah.
crap,
But
Gabe.
it's a good movie.
You brought that up, and I totally forgot about that movie until you just said it. And the entire movie came flashing back to me.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's actually it's a little bit older one.
is.
Like I said, I think it's I'm looking now. 1986. So I don't know where some of you guys might not have been born yet. I'm not sure. But it
Back in
it was
my day.
yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I specifically remember really liking the music and the guitarist, the guy named Ry Cooder. He also did some music for yeah, I know it kind of sounds funny, but he did some music for another movie, which may have been directed by the same director, with Bruce Willis in it, and it was kind of like a knockoff of like um, Fistful of Dollars or something like
Oh
that.
yeah,
And,
one Last Man Standing.
Last Man Standing. Ry
Yep.
Cooder did
Oh,
the
I thought you
music
were
for
talking about
that.
Hudson Hawk.
No, no, but the music in that is really awesome too. It's
Where's
really
the
cool.
orchestra during the recommendations?
Yeah, exactly. You're welcome.
I fired
welcome.
him.
Yeah, same director. Same director. So anyway,
All right, Andrew, your recommendation.
I'm gonna go something that doesn't actually connect to either one of these because I don't really know a good one to do that with. But mine is a goofy, fun movie with three of some of my favorite actors, and it's funny, it's goofy, it's a great popcorn movie. It really has no bearing other than looks like they had a good time doing it, and that is the 2025 version of Anaconda with Jack Black and Paul Rudd and Steve Zahn, and it is just a comedic railway train of craziness that happens, and it's you just sit and go, "Yep," and it's better than the first one because Jennifer Lopez is in it. So,
Nice.
actually, I haven't seen it yet, but it looks fun.
It does.
That's
that's
one
all
I
it
would
is.
consider.
It is super fun. It's a popcorn movie, and I laughed out loud multiple times because Steve Zahn is just he's in prime, and with Paul Rudd and Jack Black riding that comedy train next to him, it's just it's gold. But we'll talk about it next year at Oscars when it is nominated. So,
for writing.
All right, Tom, your recommendation.
All right, so I'm going to recommend an Ari Aster movie. Sorry, I know we're not supposed to, but last year he came out with a movie called Eddington, and it's got Pedro Pascal and Joaquin Phoenix about a mayor and a sheriff who basically tear a town apart. It's May 2020, during the peak of COVID, and people are having a problem with getting information and groceries. And I honestly think the only reason this movie did not really take off is that this is really not a time in America that people want to live through again. But the story is compelling. It's a movie about power. It's also very funny in the kind of the same way that One Battle After Another is funny, in that it's people in these absurd situations and how they deal with them. But yeah, I would definitely check it out.
isn't Emma Stone's in it, right?
I didn't. Yeah, I purposely skipped over that for the Emma Stoners. Austin Butler's also in it. He's very funny in it too. It's a great cast.
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't. I've heard it, but I haven't watched it. It evidently is pretty good. I'll have to check it out.
It is really good.
Yeah.
It's and it kind of comes together with a nice little bow at the end, and it's a very satisfying movie that I
Okay.
enjoyed way more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
one
why,
of those.
but go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's one that I've seen the trailers and stuff for, but I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe eventually I'll watch it. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's
I'm in.
absurdist new western about COVID. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I just recently saw something about that movie. Like it showed the movie poster with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, it's
And then
interesting.
so Joaquin Phoenix is next is in the movie too, right?
Yes. It looks interesting, Tom. Good recommendation. Thanks.
I agree. I support
Kyle.
this.
Nobody say a goddamn word when I'm done with mine. I'm going to recommend a movie in an attempt to make Tom like me more. I saw 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, and I liked it better than 28 Years Later, and maybe more than any other film in the 28 Years franchise. I loved it. Ralph Fiennes is incredible. I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say that guy's name is Jack O'Quinn. That's just a guess. I think that's right. Plays the lead Jimmy. He is fucking amazing. The story is great. Jack O'Connell. Yeah, the story is great. I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it.
So you're trying to win me over by picking the one movie in the franchise that wasn't directed. Oh no, because 28 Weeks Later wasn't Danny Boyle either. So
There's a Nia DaCosta film written by Alex Garland, but it feels very much in the world. And man, it is dark and fun, and I loved it.
Excellent. Happy to hear.
I like Fines.
All right, we're friends.
That's all it took. Hold on,
Yeah.
let me find a Danny Boyle movie I like.
Andrew, I'd just like to point out the last 2 months you have recommended remakes of old movies. The Naked Gun last month and Anaconda this month.
I like Train Spotting.
Now you're just patronizing me. Everyone likes Train Spotting.
I don't particularly care for Train Spotting.
Ooh, I really liked Yesterday.
Okay, you're just embarrassing yourself.
All right. Well,
Next, you're
Get
gonna
off
say,
your knees, Andrew.
I really like the opening night of the Olympics.
Battle of the
London
Sexes.
Olympics. No, he was the only producer on that one.
Oh, damn!
swing and a miss.
I'll find one.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
my recommendation is actually a show. And
What?
I absolutely fell in love with
God.
it. Yeah, it's more like
You
a
asshole. You're
really
breaking the
long
rules.
movie. No, I'm not. It stars Yaha Abdul Mateen II and Ben Kingsley, and that's Wonder Man on Disney Plus. It is a buddy
Such
show.
bullshit.
It is so good. And one of them just happens to be a superhero. Shola Adewusi plays Simon Williams' mother, and she is fantastic. She just makes everything so much better. And it has Joe Pants in it as himself, which makes it really hilarious. So if you haven't had the chance, I think it's 8 episodes, and they're like 30 minutes a piece. They're really short, but the chemistry between Yaha and Ben is just freaking great. So check out Wonder Man. All right,
I've heard good.
let's poke the monkey.
I didn't know we could recommend shows. I thought we made fun of that.
Find out who won. No, we make fun of books.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is Sinner!
All right, that was not as close as I thought it was going to be. 13-3.
Well, I'm sure one battle after another will get the last laugh on Oscar night. So
Guess we'll find out on Sunday.
yeah, it's not this Sunday, but that Sunday, yes.
That
On a Sunday.
On a
Yeah,
Sunday.
I was trying not to make it, time. It was trying to be timeless by saying
Yeah.
we'll find out on
Yeah.
Sunday.
Sorry.
Oh, God. All
those of
right,
you who
we
are
gotta
listening,
start over.
those of you who are listening to the second week of March, enjoy the Oscars.
I think it's interesting though that there are other movies that could take some of these awards that we didn't talk about. So,
Correct.
That is
yeah,
true.
who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
Absolutely
I
correct.
thought Chalamet had a chance, but I don't know. There's a lot of bad blood on Marty Supreme right now.
Why
Have
is
you
there
seen
bad
it?
blood on Marty Supreme?
Have any of you
Because
seen it?
Josh Safdie, is it Josh Safdie? Is that which? I was forgetting.
Yeah, one of the
Josh-
Safdie brothers is in trouble.
Not.
Oh,
Yeah, he's-
Oh, really?
the whole sex with a minor thing.
what?
Really?
He was in the room for. I don't think he's directly related
He was
to it, but
directing the scene.
right. No, yeah, he something happened during a scene he was directing that he did not handle
Oh, okay.
correctly.
This
That's
is
a
the
shame
first I've
because-
heard of it.
Marty Supreme is supposed to be well acted by Mr.
Everyone.
Chalamet.
Yeah,
So-
but
It's a
can I be
little
honest
bit-
with you? We went. Jill and I went and saw it the other day, and it was one of my least favorite movies I've ever seen in my
Really?
entire life.
Holy
I hated
shit!
it.
I've
No, I
heard
hated
it's
it.
hard to root for him. That he plays a
You
real
can't.
asshole.
Even Jill at the
Yeah.
end was like, I don't want to give it away, but she's like, I didn't want to cheer for him. I didn't want him to win. And it's just like the character is unredeemable and unredeemed, and it's just like awful. Now, don't get me wrong. Well, I didn't like the cinematography, and the cinematography is like, I mean, he's one of the best cinematographers probably of all time, but it was too dark, and it seemed underexposed, and maybe it was the theater we were in. I don't know. And
So
the
many
acting is
close-ups.
great, but the story was just chaos, and I didn't like any of the characters. And it's like, it was one of my least favorite movies.
Next
Uh,
time on Cinesmack.
Yeah, no, seriously,
Yeah.
I did not
was-
like it. I
Yeah, it
wanted
was-
to, but I did not. I like Timothy Chalamet. I just did not like the movie.
All right.
Yeah, it was uncut
Maybe you
gems
guys
with
can.
ping pong.
Uncut
Yeah,
gems
well, and
with
that's the whole
ping
thing.
pong,
It was
huh?
Yeah, it was like ping pong, and there's very little of it that has anything to do with ping pong, which is fine. But like, what's supposed to redeem him is the
I could
ping
just
pong,
see
and it doesn't.
Gabe throwing his popcorn down. There's absolutely no ping pong in this fucking
So,
movie, and he
where
storms
is the
out.
table tennis?
I brought my paddle and I
So-
dressed up and I have a ball.
It was man, it just drove me nuts. The only other
So,
movie
Gabe,
that I can think of that I hated that much was it was one called the Room Next Door. Have you guys ever seen that?
No, nope.
Mm-mm.
No,
It's in
don't
the
bother.
room. Is it the sequel to the room?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a second identical room next door.
Yeah, no, it was terrible.
Lisa!
Sorry.
So, Gabe,
You're
I'll tell
tearing
you,
me
like,
apart.
I felt kind of the same way as you when I walked out of it. I didn't walk out at the end of Marty Supreme.
Yeah, so you
But
did
then I
see
read
it.
it. I did see it, and when I read an article and I went, okay, two things that explains why I didn't get it, and I liked it a bit more with that understanding. So at some point, you and I will sit down and talk about like what what kind of turned my opinion on the whole thing. So
Okay. Yeah, I can give these movies, I don't feel like a movie has to have like a happy ending or a predictable character arc where they redeem themselves at the end or whatever. But I just felt like I just was not satisfied at the end of that movie. I was like, these people were awful. This movie was awful. I didn't like
Isn't
it.
it based on a true story?
Nah,
No.
if it is, it's loosely based on a true story.
no, there was no real person called
Marty.
Marty. No, there was a ping pong player. They said there's one scene in the entire movie that's based on something that actually happened.
It says that it's a fast and loose perception of interpretation of the real life table tennis champion Marty Reisman's life.
No,
Well, it's a lot of heavy lifting with the fast and loose interpretation.
Right.
it's
They
it's-
took the name Marty and the fact that he played
Yeah.
table tennis.
Okay, so two things. There's one scene in his first name.
Huh.
Join us next week for Gabe and Tom talk table tennis.
Yeah.
Table tennis talk.
There's apparently a Holocaust joke that didn't go over well.
Oh well, Marty.
Hold
Marty's
on.
an
Are there any
asshole.
Holocaust jokes that go over well?
Yeah, really?
Well,
Is
no,
there-
but
That implies
mean-
that there are some tasteful ones.
But it's
that
not.
is true. That's not how I meant that. But yes,
No, I know. I get what you're saying. It's just it's a funny way for someone to write
Yeah.
that.
it's an inappropriate scene involving a Holocaust related joke, is what it says.
Yeah, but
Is
it's
that
not really
true?
a joke to the. There are
I'm
some
sorry,
questionable
we're
things
way
that Marty says.
I-
Yeah, there are some questionable things that Marty says regarding, the Holocaust and stuff like that. But it's not. I wouldn't say it's a joke in the movie. You know what I mean? It's a depiction of Marty's character
Sure.
and how he is and how he doesn't really. He'll say awful things and doesn't really care about it. It's not a. I wouldn't say that the movie made a joke out of it, if that makes sense. It's not like
No,
we're all
I
supposed to laugh at it. Marty's character is just awful.
Yeah.
So he says shit that most people shouldn't say.
Please leave us a review on whatever podcasting service you use. It helps us reach new listeners. If you like us, tell your friends. If you hate us, tell your enemies. You can contact
If you're driving,
us.
wake up!
You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, where you can join the live recordings. Just search Cinesmack. For March, we're hosting a fashionista fistfight on the runway as Cruella steps up to The Devil Wears Prada. For Tom, Kyle, Andrew, Gabe, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.